Exclusivity is the boundary
Yes.
that allows you to experience love freely and fully. You can give it and you can receive it without a lot of hurdles to go through. If you don't have the titles, you don't have the focus. That just is the seed that grows into like what a relationship is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So it gives you a nice boundary, a nice focus. It provides a little reprieve from the very fast-paced process of what it means to like date multiple people. Or like, let's just assume that you're dating like, I say 3 people. It's like normal for people, right? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Intellectual Podcast. We are your We are your hosts.
We are your horse.
No,
Renee.
No, actually, no. If you really want to like break it down a little bit, we got hard. And that's neither here nor there. We're your hosts, Jem and Renee.
Yes.
And we're here to give you a little bit of nuance in the very polarizing climate of the internet conversations today.
Yes.
What are we talking about, Renee? Please.
We are talking about month 4 of...
Why did I forget that? Like, I was actually asking what we were
You're
talking
like genuinely like wondering, like, actually, what are we talking
what's
about?
going on here?
Yes, we are talking about month 4 today of our series continuation of going into the first 6 months of dating and kind of what that looks like and how to navigate kind of the typical stages one goes through within 6 months, or really when you're beginning to get to know someone in a serious capacity.
Yes, as we were elaborating on this idea, we realized
we had a breakthrough, you guys.
Yeah,
I had a breakthrough, actually.
I think it's like she verbalized the breakthrough, but I was internalizing the breakthrough.
And then you made it like,
and we made it make sense.
Yeah.
What had happened is that we realized that we were creating the most ideal dating situation of all time.
This is literally the most perfect relationship of all perfect relationships.
If you've been listening for the last few weeks, then you'll know that.
Yeah.
Like, if you are progressing through these steps with a person, why wouldn't you want to actually be exclusive with them?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't this your girlfriend/boyfriend? Why isn't this your significant other already?
Right.
If it's this perfect 4 months in. So we were originally going to...
Yeah, the original idea was that we, like 6 months, by the end of the 6 months, you would be in some sort of exclusive relationship. And I think that number really came from me trying to average out how long it took for people to get into relationships from like what I hear. Like I know some people who like they were talking to someone for several months, like 5 months maybe before they made things exclusive.
Sure.
But in most cases that aren't our fantasy world of this most perfect relationship, there were imperfect things that were happening, which is, I think, what led to it taking 5 months or 8 months for those 2 people to get into relationships.
I really wish that you told
Said
me
that. Well, I kind of realized it like after the fact. It was kind of just like 6 months.
Yeah, like,
this is such
we
a
don't
nice
question
number.
where that comes from. Yeah, 6 is a nice number.
Yeah, it was a nice
666,
number,
baby.
Oh,
yeah, still nice, right?
No. Unless it's an angel number, that's what we're talking about.
I don't know
Not
what the 666 means in the form of angel bullshit.
Me neither.
All right, well, moving right along.
Yeah.
So we realized that in this ideal world that we created, if you follow the steps that we elaborated on the last few episodes, by month 4 you will probably be at the exclusive moment.
Yeah,
right?
it's inevitable if you have been kind of going through this more or less healthy flow of both parties being equally invested, equally engaging, equally interested in one another.
Exactly.
It's you're in the honeymoon phase. You're obsessed. Who's not going to have the exclusive conversation by the 4th month?
It'd
you know
be
what I mean?
It's like there's no reason not to.
Exactly.
So.
You're doing everything but. You know. So.
In the sense of realism and practicality, we will also augment our first elaborations, our first assumptions, and adapt to what we think is more accurate.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure whether we said at the beginning of this series that by the 6th month
You should
would be exclusive.
Yeah. I don't know if we elaborated on that, but just in case we did, because I haven't listened back to those episodes yet.
And even if we did it, now we're giving you guys a little behind the scenes on,
exactly.
on
our
thought
processes, and it's fine. And you guys don't have to stress out about it. We're stressed out about it, and it's okay. But before we get really into the nit and gritty, I've been having a concept that I wanted to share with you guys for the last few weeks, but Renee had so many other things to tell you.
So many weird guys. I just would like to apologize.
Tell the people what they need to hear.
I would just like to apologize. I don't know what. Actually, I do know exactly what. I just wish I brought more context to my punch a person.
Right. She actually isn't as violent as she was.
I'm really not violent actually at all. It was just my boyfriend trains in fighting and MMA and kickboxing and whatnot. And I would want to know how hard he could punch. So I would not punch a person. I just want to say that. Anyways,
she has no desire to punch a person.
Yes.
Just if she was in her boyfriend's body, she would want to see how hard her boyfriend can punch.
Yes. All right. I'm glad I gave that clarification. We can move on.
Anyways, if you haven't commented on that question, let us know. What's the first thing you're going to do if you switch bodies?
Right.
And if you want to punch people and you're a girl, do you need help? I'm still on that. I'm not over that at all. That was such a wild conversation. But anyways, today's concept. I was hanging out with some acquaintances a couple weeks back.
Okay.
And, money is such a sensitive issue.
It is.
Because money matters, even though it's a social construct and it doesn't really exist. It exists for us. Mm-hmm. And I realized that you can really tell how close you are to a person by how you guys interact with money. So, for example, my closest friends and I, we don't pay each other back.
Okay.
Like if we're at a restaurant and someone gets the bill, it's $30. I have never once paid my friends back $30. Like I don't Venmo my friends $30. Like, hey, what is blah, 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 this, that, and the other. It's like, you guys owe me $25. Well, I only got the beer and that. You guys got like shots and like, we don't care about all that stuff.
Yeah.
What we end up doing is that if you get this one, I'll get the next one. And we just trade off like that. And at the end of the day, it becomes even. And we have enough money where like the $5 discrepancies here and there doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
These people I was with, not that as close to, they're the Venmoers. Like, oh, I got this. Like, oh, you paid for this, but like mine was $55, so I'm gonna need like $20 back. So you can like split the difference between that. And I'm like, I never want money to be an issue in my interactions, right?
Yeah,
I think it's the dumbest thing to lose a friend over.
Yeah.
So I'll give you your $20.
Yeah.
But also as my friend, why does the $20 matter so much to you? Right? I'd rather get somebody a coffee than pay them back money for some reason.
Yeah.
It just feels like more transactional if I have to like pay you back for a favor that you did me.
Yeah. Okay.
Versus just like, yeah, you just get the next one and then being okay with like whatever difference that may or may not be.
Yeah. No, I sort of agree, I think. Should I clarify?
Yeah, like elaborate. Why not? we're talking about it. There's no reason not to.
Because like I guess I agree. Like if it's like a favor, but also I think it depends on like your income levels, right? So
maybe that too.
So like, and also too how big the bill was. So if it was like a $500 say or like $300, I feel like 3 people can easily do $300 bill. I think regardless, you would probably just like split that. I would say like I'm not a big stickler about like the taxes and like stuff like that. Like it was added up. Okay, it was roughly this. Just like send that over. Like I'm not going to like check your work or whatnot. Sure. But I mean, there are times where I'm like, oh, like even like when I'm at work. This is not close friends. This is different. But when I'm at work, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to the coffee shop. Does anyone want anything? I don't have anyone pay me back. It's like everything that they had was like $5 or whatever. I'm offering like if you guys want anything, if you want a snack or something like that, I'll just like pay for it. But I don't know. I think the only people that I have like paid for and like have not asked for like money back typically are like family and usually like my like little sisters. And I'm like, no, like I'm buying you dinner. But with friends, it's just like, I don't have the money necessarily. I guess if it's like $20, I guess it's not that serious, but I don't know. I think it kind of depends as well,
Remember when we first hung out after not seeing each other for like 2 months because you were in the thralls of your dating situation?
Yeah.
And we went to like 3 restaurants and I paid for the first one and you got the next one.
Wait, how long ago was this?
Remember when we went to the rooftop? We had the falafel.
Oh, yeah,
that was
yeah,
insane.
yeah. Oh, that was so good.
It was so good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Gotcha. Sounds good. Because I agree, but I don't agree. You know what I mean? Like, well, when's the next time you're going to see these people? And it's like, okay, it was like, but it was a $200 bill. And like, we all like had like hearty meals. Like as much as I want to like have the money to pay for dinner for my friends when we go out, it's just like, I don't.
So here's the actual next part. If you did, like, let's say your personal financial situation was not an issue, would that bother you?
I mean, obviously not nearly as much.
And that's my point. Because the people I'm talking about, we have the same financial
Gotcha.
level. So it's not like my broke McDonald's working friend who just graduated high school.
But it's not even has to necessarily be that though. Like it doesn't have to be that extreme. Like people just have different income levels, especially when you're living in LA like we do.
But these people have the same income level as I do.
But this is a general question that we're giving people. And I think there's like more context to like, even if they are your closest friends, sometimes it's like your closest friends, like, yeah, she wanted to go to dinner with you, but she only expected to like pay for her $30 meal, you know, not for both of you guys because you're besties.
Then would that person be paying for the bill?
I hope not. That'd also be so rude.
Weird. That'd be strange.
If you're that's true. If you're best friends and you know
like
that
one's
your friend,
clearly like
you know that you make more than
you.
your friend. Yeah, that.
Like, come on now.
Agreed.
Hey, you got it right.
Yeah.
What? Like, fam, you know how much money I make. What is the problem? But I guess the concept to clarify all those idiosyncrasies is like, assuming that you guys both make the same amount of money and you guys are both financially stable and you both can fit the bill, right?
Yeah.
My friends that I can do that with, we don't care about $20 differentials. And if I get this one, they'll get the next one. If they get the next one, I'll get the next one. And I prefer that type of interaction because I don't know, to me it showcases a certain type of closeness and camaraderie that you don't have with strangers. With strangers, you want them to pay you back because like there's not enough trust there. There's like all the reasons why you want strangers to pay you back.
Totally.
With my friends, like I'm gonna see you next week, fam.
Yeah.
Type shit. So it's like, why do I have to pay you back so aggressively? All things remaining equal.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Not really a question, but I think you can really tell how close you are to a person by how you guys split bills.
Interesting. So that's the question of the day.
Concept of the day.
The
concept I've been exploring for the last few weeks.
I am curious what other people do think of that because I feel just torn. You know, I'm not fully sold, and I don't have to be. It's fine.
Yeah, you don't have to be. But I will say that when we went out to eat that one time, you did exactly what
that.
I'm talking about.
Well, because we were going to we were together. We were going to two different spots. Also, to be fair, like there are a lot of times that when we go out, you do just like pay. Which I do appreciate. It's very sweet because you do make more money than me by a lot. So
I can't do this.
But it's like, but I also too, I don't like the expectation on myself when I do go out with my friends. I don't like that expectation put on me, and I don't like putting that expectation on others of expecting me to pay for things or having,
just because like, oh, like let's go to the steakhouse, I'll pay for it. Now the next time we go to like this tasting thing, like. You got it, right?
Right, exactly. Like I never, like whenever we go out, I never expect you to pay. Like I always have, and even with like friends, even in my relationship, like as much as like Matt like pays for things, I never expect him to, but he does most of the time.
So it's the expectation for you.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Well, yeah.
Probably.
I can feel that. That being said, I think we can just go right into what we're talking about today, the whole concept of exclusivity and how we should go about the pros and cons of exclusivity, what we should be expecting now that we reach this stage in our interaction with this person and we're all honeymooning and we're in love and it's beautiful and there's nothing wrong and we've communicated our expectations, quote unquote, and now I want to be with this person because
had the breakthrough of your first conflict and you're on this high and now you're like, oh, we're so in sync, and at least
the first conflict didn't break your relationship in half.
Exactly.
So what's the point of not being together?
Right. You guys both wanted to engage in that conflict. Why not be together?
Exactly.
Forever.
Which, yikes. Wow, that's so perfect. Because I was going to say, you can start with your rant about how people shouldn't be scared.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's a perfect trend. Oh my God, that was so good. You guys get to be together forever.
You guys get to be together. Yeah. That is literally, I think, that is how people see it. Okay, guys, this is how I feel. I don't think people should be afraid of exclusivity. In the sense of, I don't think people should be afraid of putting labels on a relationship or interaction.
Interesting.
People will go like months and years and whatnot, being okay with, I think that's why people are okay with situationships and why they like hold on to these people that clearly don't want to be with them and like all these things, because we're ultimately like afraid of just calling someone your boyfriend or girlfriend. You're not marrying the human. You're not marrying the human being. All that exclusivity, well, this is not all that it does, but if two people like one another,
right,
it is okay to then call one another boyfriend and girlfriend. I think this is something that we're going to go into. I think there's a lot of expectation for like things to be set at like this certain area. Your feelings should be here. Your expectations of the other person should be at this specific point in order for them to be my boyfriend or girlfriend. But that's not the case. And that expectation or that point in my brain, I'm thinking people feel as if like, okay, if I call them my boyfriend or girlfriend, it's because I want them to be my forever person. No, it's not because you want them to be your forever person. Or part of it is like you see that potential of them being your forever person, but it's not like a death sentence or like you're signing off a marriage license. I think it gives you a framework or a structure to then work within to continue the exploration that is needed, and also gives the two parties the safety in order to do so, right? The vulnerability, et cetera, those scary things that are required in order to create a solid relationship. And if you call someone your boyfriend at 4 months, you guys get an exclusive, and then a year later you decide like, oh, didn't work out. It didn't work out. Go your separate ways. I know it's not that simple.
Right. I was about to say, I know this beautiful ass wishful thinking is so nice.
I know it's not that simple, but I do think that in a lot of situations, it can hurt people more than help them to then like remain in this purgatory of like, we're technically exclusive. We're not seeing anyone else or like whatever, but I don't want to put the label. I'm afraid like the label. I'm like, what? I don't know. I just rant almost over. I have never thought of like calling someone my boyfriend or girlfriend with such a heaviness like to it, with such like a permanence to it. But I think people see it as such. And I think it takes away from like what it's the next stage. It's just simply the next stage. Sorry.
Just a little moment of clapping for that.
Thank you.
Very well said.
I appreciate it.
There are lots of levels to that I agree with personally.
Yeah.
But just watching how the world works.
I know.
And understanding why that beautiful idealistic situation just isn't the way people feel about things.
Yeah.
And I feel in the grand scheme of things is why people fear the titles. Even though a good aspect of these titles is the safety net, is the structure that you can explore these very vulnerable and intimate ideas, which you can't do that with a stranger because there's nothing there to like keep you contained. The other side of that is that people suck at being vulnerable.
Right.
And I don't mean that in the sense that you might assume by how I said it, right? Oh, people suck at being vulnerable means that they suck at vulnerability, right? It's like they suck at opening up and doing all that stuff. It's like, no, people suck at how they behave once they've been vulnerable. Contrary to popular belief, I think everyone is really good at being vulnerable. Because what's inside of you, you want to be out of you. Yeah. And when someone is like, you're sexually intimate with them, you're doing all this stuff, it's very easy to start opening up to people.
Yeah.
Bad part of that is when people start getting attached to the things that they're opening to the people that they're opening up to.
Yeah.
That's the scary part. That's the crazy part. That's the thing that you get the crazy ex-girlfriend banging on your door after you broke up with her like 2 years ago, talking about like, well, what are you doing? Like, please, I just want you back. This, that, because people can't handle the weight of what comes after intimacy and vulnerability. So, especially now in this modern era where it's like, everything's so quick, everything's so attainable, everything is so shiftable, and you're kind of like rewarded for how much you don't attach yourself to things.
Yeah.
It's like to attach means so much more now.
Yeah.
And since you put so much weight on that attachment and that opening up and what it means in the grand scheme of relationships and that fails, the risk of it failing is so much more aggressive and heavy and devastating than like, oh, he was never my boyfriend.
Yeah, sure. Ugh, I know.
Logic wins out once again.
It's not even that it's like it's for me. The things that I will get most frustrated about is because I'm like, it can all be so simple, and I know that's like me on like a soapbox for sure. And I'm like, and it's not simple. It's not easy. And I think even to that point, relationships aren't easy, and like that even when you are completely willing to engage in that and be okay with the aftermath and all that, if you're like existing in this healthy way of like, you know, I will open up and be vulnerable, and it's okay if this person does not accept me, like I can heal and I can move on and yada yada. Even then, it's still hard to do because it takes a lot of work and takes a lot of mental like and brain power to engage in when you're in those like spaces and moments with the person that you're dating. So I get it. It's just,
trust me. If anyone relates to your dissociation, but like your kind of like removal from like the emotional aspect of these interpersonal interactions, it's me.
Definitely.
And you know it's me.
Right.
Like I look at these people struggle and stress, and I'm just like, I literally do not understand it.
If you just do this, this, and this.
Or even more so that like from like the last point you said, it's like, you can move on if it doesn't work out. Move on and go forth. I'm like, I don't that the risk of, and I know this like kind of contradicts what I said before, but I don't think that the risk of like future pain is worth controlling your decisions in the present moment, because future pain doesn't exist.
Right. A pause
point
for that.
Period.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
Pause point period. That's it.
Yeah.
Future pain does not exist. So you internalizing that and feeling it, because your brain is powerful, you can physiologically feel future pain before it happens to you.
Totally.
You have to go through that twice.
Yeah.
I'm like, doesn't really matter. If it happens, cool. If it doesn't happen, then there's no point in thinking about it.
Right.
So let's operate under the assumption that this isn't going to happen.
Right.
And base the interaction off that. And more often than not, because relationships are a choice, if you choose to do that, you're less likely to experience the thing that you're fearing in the first place.
Right. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. Not almost, it is.
Yeah, like 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why that thing always baffles me. It's like you could be fine.
Yeah.
But in your attempt to avoid this pain that is only in your brain, it doesn't exist in your current reality.
Yeah.
You are creating the future that you're fearing.
Yeah.
Actively creating the future that you're fearing, and it like makes no sense. And this isn't just for like relationships, right? This is for people that are looking for like they're looking for people that are looking for jobs, people that are raising children, people that are moving to different places in the world. Like any aspect where like fear is involved, this concept applies. Like, I don't know, why would you let the potential of something going wrong ruin your experience?
Yeah.
Because you have to experience it regardless.
Right.
That's all life is, experiencing.
Yeah, 100%.
So why will you only pick and choose? Like, I only want positive experiences when the point of living is experience neutral.
And growth within that too. Because it's like you... In those situations, like you're saying, people are so focused on like the future pain that the person may cause them by doing the said thing versus simply focusing on the benefit of doing the thing, regardless of the outcome. Because regardless, like the bonus, essentially, the bonus is the relationship growing stronger and you having like this wonderful moment and vulnerable moment with your partner. The real like benefit that you're getting there is for yourself ultimately too. And obviously, your partner's involved or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that. but truly, like if that doesn't work out, if you open up and all these kind of things and it doesn't work out, you are still leaving that situation a better person.
Yeah.
Because you've opened up, because you have been vulnerable in the ways that you need to be vulnerable. You've maybe discovered things because of that vulnerability that you didn't really realize before. That's self-growth.
Yeah.
That's self-growth
100%.
right there. And you can only walk away from that situation stronger. You've learned something. You've learned something new.
But the pain.
The pain is also good. Do not run away from it.
And then
I've never run away from pain.
Yeah. Ooh, a different, whoa, scary. Yikes. Different issue. We'll talk about that later. The last point I want to make about that is on a societal level, the weight that this exclusivity and monogamy has society in a chokehold. It has American Western culture.
America.
In a chokehold for real. And again, I will probably be quoting Esther Perel like it's a thing to do because she's a beautiful mind.
Yeah.
She has probably single-handedly, what's the word? She has single-handedly curated my relationship understanding.
Is that the book that you gave me to read?
That's the author, yeah. Monogamy is so heavy that people are more married to the idea of monogamy than they are to the people that they're interacting with. And I may or may not have said this in previous episodes.
I think we have talked about it, yeah.
But what that looks like now in this context of this conversation is that monogamy, the goal of monogamy is one for, right?
Right.
But to break up with a person or have the potential to break up with a person invalidates the very idea of the one forever.
Right.
So instead of disappoint the conceptual mother that is monogamy that has you in this aggressive ass chokehold, you'd rather just not participate.
Yeah.
And if you don't participate, you can't fail.
Yeah.
I will raise you another perspective because I don't think that's the end all be all of these situations.
Totally.
Like you were saying, the experience and the growth is the goal.
Yeah.
Right? The absence of something doesn't mean that another thing occurs. Two things can occur at the same time, right? You can not have, this person cannot be the one, and you can be in pain, and this can be sad, and this could be devastating, sure, whatever. But at the same time, it can also be the experience that you had and good because it's an experience that you had. Like just because it ended doesn't mean the last year that you were participating and succeeding at this exclusive monogamous situation that is very difficult to do, is very rare that people can find a connection that even want to stay in for a year.
Right.
Like that in and of itself is so full of value that you completely negate because you're like, it didn't last, but it lasted for a year.
Yeah.
It lasted for a year, fam. It didn't last for 7 years, but the year that it lasted is valuable and we should appreciate that and find the next person and make that last 2, 3, the rest of your life, whatever. And if it doesn't, whatever. But people will look at 50-year marriage and be like, on the 51st year, they broke up, they got their divorce, and it's like, damn.
Whole thing was a waste.
Yeah, that was a complete waste of time. You didn't die together. But they made it work for 50 years.
That's a beautiful sentiment.
I think so too.
Agreed.
But because we're so married to this.
And so afraid of failure, like you were saying, American culture, failure.
Not an option. Right. So because we can't. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. We got it.
People that are only listening.
Because of that, we rob ourselves of the opportunities to learn how to be monogamous because it's not something you're just born knowing how to do.
Right.
You have to fail at it and grow through it and process your stuff through it and do it often and do it quickly and reassess. And if it's not working, just communicate it and find someone else. And that's the beauty of modern dating that no one takes advantage of because we don't want to fail and we want things to... We haven't separated our newfound tools of engagement with these lofty ideals that have been created through the romantic era. And we can talk about that later. That's a huge...
Yeah, I was like, there's meat there.
Yeah, lots of meat. I went straight to the bone. But we'll talk about that later. Let's get back to exclusivity.
Yes.
But yes, so that being said, exclusivity. Why is it beautiful? And why is it a problem?
Because it's beautiful.
It's beautiful because it's beautiful. You heard it here first, folks. It's beautiful because it's beautiful.
I'm definitely very biased when it comes to like exclusivity, as like per my rant. I think like I said before, the why it's beautiful or why it's important. I think delaying any sort of exclusivity when it's kind of the time to then be exclusive to take that next step in a relationship. I guess maybe I'm saying a con of not being exclusive, but I think a byproduct of like delaying something that I think is important to then take the next step, even with the fear of it, et cetera, et cetera. It can break down the potential of like, say, like a really great relationship. There's probably, I think the biggest thing there is loss of trust, essentially. So in two parties, like, you know, one person's like, we're clearly both ready to take this next step, and one person is very, very hesitant and kind of delaying that exclusivity talk and wanting to engage with it.
Probably not as real as I thought it was.
Right, exactly. The other person starts questioning the said thing and all that good stuff. I don't know if it's good stuff.
All that stuff.
All that stuff. That's the word that came to mind. But there's a lot of doubt and mistrust that starts getting sowed once delaying exclusivity. Once you do that. So I think it's important to take that next step because, as I had said in my rant, you need to create like a structure of safety to then engage in the next natural steps of like a relationship.
Exclusivity is the boundary.
Yes.
That allows you to experience love freely and fully. You can give it and you can receive it without a lot of hurdles to go through. If you don't have the titles, you don't have the focus. That just is the seed that grows into like what a relationship is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So it gives you a nice boundary, a nice focus. It provides a little reprieve from the very fast-paced process of what it means to like date multiple people. Or like, let's just assume that you're dating like, I say 3 people is like normal for people, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Do you disagree?
Well, I don't know. Maybe 2. I feel like more often than not, people really aren't dating multiple people, multiple people at once.
Let's just say that you're dating more than one person, right? Okay. Let's just assume.
Yeah.
More than one, however many you're doing. That can be tiring.
Yeah.
That can be exhausting. Always trying to bounce and pursue and do this whole like rigmarole, the dance of dating.
Yeah.
Can be very exhausting. To pick a person and decide to be exclusive, now all your energy and all your focus is on them, and you don't have to stress out about a lot of things. Honestly, if they choose to be with you, you can just assume that they like you enough to be with you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to perform as hard.
Yeah.
Not that you don't have to perform.
Yeah.
Don't twist my words, people.
Don't get it twisted.
Don't get it twisted. You still have to perform, but you don't have to perform the way that is like giving of yourself. Like we were talking about in our male-female differential differences in dating strategy.
Yeah.
Like men have to offer all this value up front, right?
Right.
Whereas that can be very taxing. That can be very exhausting. And when you're in a relationship, you don't have to do that as hard.
Yeah.
Like they see your values, they saw your value. Now you can just relax and know that they appreciate you for what you are and who you are as a person.
Who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think too, it gives the green light as well for things to happen, I guess. I don't know. Like when in my relationships, whenever the exclusivity talk happened, it felt like a weight was like, or like a restraint was taken off. I didn't.
Now I can be who I want to be.
Now I can be right. Dick's mask off. Oh my God, a completely different person. No, not in that sense. But like there's certain things that you don't do when you're dating someone. There's certain things you're not going to say, because, like we're not dating. We're not like, you're not my boyfriend. So I'm not going to like say these things or do these things or expect these things from you, yada, yada, yada. So there's a certain like restraint, especially when you're like, the pressure is building, when you're building up to that exclusivity talk. I feel like it's like a pressure component happening. And then once you make that person your boyfriend, it's like a valve is let open and like that air is released.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, at least to me.
I feel like we're talking about the submarine again. The valve and the air is released. Oh my God.
How my brain works, just associations.
No, and like to that point, I think it gives permission for you to like the role of being like not necessarily a caretaker, but giving form to the concern that you naturally have for this person that you're dating.
Yeah.
Because like how we were saying before, there's a lot of things that you can be concerned about, but it's weird to say when you guys are in exclusives versus like if it's your significant other, you have a little bit more, I guess for lack of a better word, you have the right to say more things that either bother you or things that you want to see differently, or the voice of your concern is more valid than say like some random dude I'm dating like, fam, I'm just dating you, relax. It's not that serious. Versus like if your boyfriend, you naturally respect it more. Yeah. Like, especially for me too, if I'm like dating girls, I don't care about their like moods and feelings as much if I'm just dating them versus if they were my girlfriend. Yeah. Even if I don't necessarily agree with how they're feeling, I will like be a little more empathetic because like that's my girl, know what I mean? Right, so it's like those type of things.
Become more considerate, or you're able to show your consideration more for the other person.
But on the other side of that, in that same vein, the difference of energies can be very shocking to people.
What do you mean?
So when the pursuit stops, right? Now he's not trying to take you, and I'm not trying to desire you. Now he as we paint the picture in how we converse about relationships, right? The guy's chasing, right? Once he stops chasing, he gets what he wanted, the energy shifts. Yeah. Right? So that can be very shocking to a lot of women. It's like, oh, like he was doing all these things before, and all of a sudden I decided to be in a relationship with him, and now like he's not bringing me flowers. He's not asking me out on dates. He's not doing all the stuff he did to like, get me to be his girlfriend. And then on the other side of that, the responsibility that comes with being in a relationship. Yeah. Right. Those things are another layer to the fear that people have with exclusivity. It's just spoken from my own experience. If people that I'm like not really that serious about, they want to be in a relationship, the reason why I would avoid it was because I don't want to give what is required from those titles. Like those titles come with not baggage, but they come with they come with such heavy expectations and responsibility, right? Yeah. Just like as simple as the one I just said, like I have to care about your feelings that I wouldn't have had to care about if you weren't my girlfriend. Totally. I'm like, if my friend's upset, like, yeah, I care about it, but I'm not responsible for that as hard as if we're actually dating. Right. I'm supposed to console you, supposed to do all this stuff. Yeah. And like sometimes I just don't want to give that to people. I could like that person and think they're great and want to spend time with them, but to give that extra layer, just not something that
you just don't care enough.
Yeah. As harsh as it might sound. Yeah. So in that, I think it's really important to understand that certain aspects of your interaction with a person will inevitably change once you decide to change the nature of your interaction with them. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people don't expect that, right? It's like, I like what we have right now, which is why I want to go to the next level. Sure. But when the next level comes with new things, like, whoa,
what's required.
Yeah, right. Like, what's going on here? This is crazy. Like, no.
This is what it means.
This is what it means to have exclusivity. This is what it means to desire it. Yeah. And it's about rolling with the punches and moving through that. And I think, too, that the way that you have the conversation can set the groundwork of what to expect from your newfound interaction.
Totally agree with that.
What would you say is the best way to approach that
exclusivity conversation? With exactly how you feel, essentially. Because I'm thinking back to the times, I guess I can only speak from my experience and experience of my friends and whatnot. Every time that I have felt the need or the desire to bring up the exclusivity conversation, it's always like, you know, I didn't, for the most part, actually, I did plan it once and that didn't go well for me.
Ooh. Can we just like little tangent segue?
Talk about
I'm
it?
so curious.
Well, you know the person. I'm not going to say their name. Remember, I heavily planned that. In hindsight.
Did we ever talk about like the aftermath of that?
I don't think we ever fully fleshed that out together.
This is the time. Perfect.
Oh, for sure. I am not prepared at all for that.
Are you ever really prepared?
No, you're never really prepared. No, but there was only one instance in which I felt like I heavily planned that conversation to have with that person about wanting to be exclusive and the feelings that I had for them. And I think I have stated this previously. When something comes from such a place of anxiety, it usually means that it's not aligned in some way. And that was the case with this person. You know, they met the conversation and with like, oh, I mean, yeah, sure, we could be exclusive. Like it was very half-assed. And good on me for being like, at that moment, I was like, well, that's not what I want.
Right.
You clearly don't want this as much as I do, so we can't be doing this.
Wait,
right.
So what did you plan?
Oh, the plan that I remember having a conversation with you actually about being like, okay, this is what I'm going to say. I just was very like, okay, he's like, we're going to have this date and then he's going to come over afterwards and then I'm going to talk to him. And I'm pretty sure like with Blue, or maybe just in my head, I don't really know, with my sister Blue, I like just planned out what I was going to say, like to like the T of just like really, really thinking about it and just being like, it's going to go exactly like this. And like, I just had a lot of like control around that. That ultimately didn't do me any good. So I'm sorry, I don't have any like master plan that maybe you thought I did, but
It sounded like you did.
no, there wasn't like any master plan. I just really, really heavily thought about it. But in other times in which the exclusivity conversation got brought up and I then entered into that relationship, it was just a moment of like feeling, of being like, I really feel, I think the difference between those two things for me, those two situations that I was in, it was a head versus heart scenario. I was really in the scenario in which the guy rejected me. I was really in my head about it. It was very much like, and I really liked him, but in hindsight, it was a head versus heart situation where, even say for like my current relationship, when it got brought up, there was just like a lot of like, I have such strong feelings for this person. And I think that I can continue on in this interaction without exclusivity, without us being like, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend essentially. And I was under the impression with my boyfriend that he would not want to be exclusive for months. I do remember that. I was like, he's not going to want to like make me his girlfriend for a year before. I was just so, because the conversations that we had that gave me this impression of how he felt. But yeah, I think it's you know, when you feel the feeling, it's good to lead with that feeling in this scenario and expressing that to that person. Right.
Just adding on to that, I think it's very interesting that people feel feelings and they use that as a reason to run away from commitment versus feeling feelings and using that as a reason why the interaction can't remain the way that it is.
Yeah.
Not to run away, but to evolve it to a place where your feelings make more sense.
Right.
Right. It's just so, it's just like, why do you like, oh my God, I feel too strongly. Bye.
Yeah.
Why? What were you doing for the last 4 months? Whatever.
You silly girl.
You silly goose. What are you doing? You silly.
That's so funny when you say it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds so dumb, right?
Like, hey, people have avoidant attachment styles.
Grow
Make
up.
space. I'm just kidding.
Grow up.
Gosh.
Stop avoiding attachment.
Yeah.
I'm talking to myself.
Yeah, no, literally. Says the person who's literally never been in a committed relationship.
That's crazy.
Says the person. Oh my gosh, the irony does not escape us.
This entire thing, actually, since we're on the topic, this entire podcast is for us first.
Yeah.
So everything I say, it's advice I'm taking to heart for myself.
Yes.
Whether I apply it or not is that's between me and myself. Y'all relax. It's not about y'all, all right? After you listen to this conversation, it's not about you. It's about me and myself. Me, myself, and I, and we step to the end.
Miserable.
I'm just saying.
Miserable.
But like you were saying, leading with vulnerability, I think, is the goal, because the way people usually start these conversations, what are we?
Yeah.
Question, which it doesn't actually fill me with dread and anxiety anymore. Yeah. It just is like, ill. But not like disgust.
Yeah.
It's just like, you could have done better than that.
Yeah.
And usually if somebody tells me that, I'll approach it with like the necessary empathy that it requires. But there's a better way to do it, because the what are we is so directed.
It's so directed and not directed at all, I think. Like, you're saying a question when clearly you want to have a conversation, when clearly you have something to say. So you do it by prompting the other person to like nudge them to like say what you want them to say versus just being like, hey, my feelings have grown stronger. I'm really into you. I would like, I see this as being something more exclusive and I would love to do that with you.
Instead of putting on your big boy pants and saying what you got to say, you want them to take the responsibility of moving the relationship, but it's your relationship too.
Right.
And if you feel that way, whether or not they feel that way is irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's up to you to honor your feelings so
Exactly.
that you can get the relationship and the interaction that you want.
Exactly. It's all about you.
I mean, it is though. It really is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, for now. But you wanna negate the responsibility, outsource the responsibility.
Totally.
And the reason why I said it was pointed is because it's like it feels like when you try to like restructure that conversation so that you can receive rather than give what you need to give because you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
It always comes across to me as an attack. It's like when I hear what are we, I also hear why aren't you doing the thing that makes me feel better about being around you?
Interesting.
Like, what are you? It feels like I'm doing something wrong. I'm missing something. I'm not doing enough. I'm not showing you that I care enough. Like, there's so many things that I instantly think that I'm lacking in the situation.
Sure.
Where it's like, it's quite the opposite. Actually,
Yeah.
everything is perfect and they want more.
Well, they do want more. That's fine.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the situation, the interaction is perfect, and they want more.
Yeah.
They want more of what I've been giving them.
Okay.
But asking it in the way it's like, oh, what are we? Like, what the fuck are you doing? What have you been doing this whole time? Like, why aren't we already what we're supposed to be? It's like, I thought we were chilling.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You're like, oh, okay.
Whoa.
Sure. Yeah.
Where it's like, if you lead with vulnerability and you elaborate it in the way that you did, it's like, oh, you feel this way. I appreciate you. Or I appreciate that. And I also feel the same.
Right. It gives you the opportunity to like respond in kind or not.
And like, I'd be super open to whatever. And if you are intelligent and you're aware and you're self-actualized, like the people we are talking about,
Right.
you will
We have all of our
also-
shit together. Nothing wrong.
Not a single. We're perfect. That's crazy to me. You will definitely take that opportunity to open up
Yeah.
and have a real conversation
Yeah.
about the nature of your relationship. Remember how we were talking about the checkpoints?
We were.
This could be a checkpoint.
Definitely
But
the
it's the
next.
checkpoint that makes you guys exclusive, right?
Right.
So you'll bring up things like your relationship, your dating situation to this point, what it means to be exclusive,
Yeah.
where you're going with this exclusivity. You probably had talks about your relationships of the past and how that may or may not be affecting you.
Yeah.
And what you're bringing into the situation, right? It's like,
Yeah.
these are some things that I want to happen. This is what it means to be exclusive with a person.
Totally.
And then you guys can have that conversation, negotiate around it,
Yeah.
really formulate the foundational terms of your engagement
Yeah.
on the spot. Which
Yeah.
it sounds so lofty when I say it like that, but it's like really a practical and easy thing to do, right?
100%. 100%. I think, you're already like in that conversation and in the scenario, both like end up wanting to be together, and you're already having like an excited conversation about, oh yeah, the feelings oh, I when you looked at me that way, I kind of knew that you were no. But I agree. Like then going into kind of, there's just like no reason to not like hop on that topic right then and there. Just like, okay, this is something that we both want. Cool. Let's now talk about, this is what when I think of my partner, this is what I expect from them or I want from my partner on a day-to-day basis. What like kind of the general meaning of what a boyfriend or a girlfriend means to me. Because that means something slightly different to different people. There's some variation within that, right? I think there's no reason not to have that conversation, essentially.
But that also goes back to the cons of exclusivity. Or like I say cons, like exclusivity is a bad thing, which I don't think it is.
Like I said, says the person.
Everybody calm down. I don't
Not been
think
in a relationship.
exclusivity is a bad thing.
Yeah.
I just think that it's not like a butterfly field of daisy situations. Like
Yeah.
there is a weight to have a title, right? And that weight comes with a certain set of responsibilities. I don't think the responsibilities are bad.
No.
They just exist.
They just exist. And I think eventually, especially when you really care about a person, it becomes natural. Right.
So to like call attention to them makes it seem more aggressive than they are, but to experience them in a practical way, it's not as burdensome.
Yeah,
as it
exactly.
is to talk about what they are.
right. When you talk about it, it feels much more so.
But in that, like I was saying, once you kind of relax into the title and you don't need to pursue it as aggressively and you stop pursuing, and like maybe you guys don't like go out to eat as much. Maybe you want to stay home and watch TV and you do that for like the next month. Feels like, and what that looks like, sure, you're more vulnerable. You might be a little more close, but as the relationship structure moves towards safety and security, desire exists on the outside of that. So the exclusivity is the boundary, right? That makes it easier to engage with a person without that competition of another person. But desire exists with the threat of the third. So the threat of a person like taking another person away from you is like the foundation of desire.
Hey, we can formulate some third
That
within
is
a relationship.
That is some advanced relationship theory conversation that the people are not ready for, Renee. But we will talk about that because I have lots of information about that part.
Yeah,
but it's like
much more than I.
When you draw that hard line in the sand, and you when you draw that hard line in the sand, and you like take the threat of the third out completely.
Yeah.
Then desire starts to decrease. So the pursuit in a relationship isn't getting a person to like you. It's maintaining a very healthy level of desire throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's on the man's side.
Sure.
On the woman's side, equally, right? The uncertainty is what women struggle with, and the desirability is what men struggle with. Right.
Okay.
So once you have the certainty, communicating and relying on the person that you chose to be with becomes a hard thing because they are actively ready and they care about you and they're concerned about you and they're ready to they're ready to support you. Right? They're ready to support you. But to operate in that and trust that is very hard. It's very risky.
Totally.
Even with the title.
Yeah.
So you'll want all these things because you've been socialized and taught to want a certain level of a certain way to be comforted, a certain way to be talked to, a certain way to be treated, a certain way. Optics are really important in relationships, or what it looks like, what it feels like, what your friends think about it, right? All these things are really important.
Yeah.
And all these things exist in your mind. They have to exist in your partner's mind before you get irritated that he's not fulfilling some unmet need you never elaborated on. Right?
Totally.
And that's where exclusivity can become a little dicey. Like we were saying, you get all these benefits, but in the benefit, this entitlement, it's not entitlement, it's the titles come with a bunch of expectation and a bunch of rules unspoken.
That can kill the fire, the spark, so to speak.
Exactly.
I think you touched on like a lot of good points within that like discussion of exclusivity and whatnot that obviously we're going to continue talking about. I think though, in terms of the chase and desirability and that effectively dying once two people make things exclusive, slap the label on it, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think women really have an issue with like losing desire with their partner after putting a label on something. I think that's kind of a man issue. Granted, I think maybe I'm wrong and maybe or there's just exceptions to the rules, but I don't think women necessarily have that like issue with feeling. And granted, they're not the ones chasing, and we're talking about the chase. I do think though that the reason that the chase, it dies or whatever, that perspective about once you put the label on it, the desire like loses, yada, yada, yada. I think it's also about perspective of the interaction, or just like of the relationship.
How so?
You're still creating like desire, and because I do agree that men typically, in my experience, are the ones that kind of create the desire in the relationship. They're the ones, women like to feel chased, men like to chase, and that dance can still exist in a relationship. And I think oftentimes the reason why it dies is because the man kills it. And and it being a kind of a self-fulfilling thing, that you have this perspective of like, oh, once we put the label on it, then we're kind of ball and chain type beat, like
We
these
good.
like, right,
Everything I tried, I got. It's fine.
exactly.
We're chilling now.
Right. And it's not typically the fault of like the woman in that scenario. It's the fault of the man in that perspective that he has on putting said label on the relationship. Romance it's now a new level, right? You're now cultivating not just like lust or infatuation or attraction. You're cultivating romance in a relationship, intimacy and all these things. And that is a new chase and pleasure as well. Lots of guys love to pleasure their woman.
Hey, yo.
I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know why I say a lot of things like the way I say them. I get uncomfortable. That's essentially what it is, so everyone knows.
For sure.
But you're now like creating like this new chase within the relationship that could and oftentimes is, when done right, is more enjoyable and more fulfilling and whatnot. And I think that perspective shift is important, and I think is blah, blah, blah. I don't know how to finish that sentence. I'm a podcaster, guys.
Oh man, you were doing so well. That's
I was
crazy.
doing really well. Sometimes I just fall off. Sometimes it just happens.
It's okay. It's okay. We're here to pick up the rest of that. It's not a big deal. To that, just thought of it.
Yeah.
Could be wrong, could not be wrong, honestly. I'll let the people decide that. But if men have to be the driving force for the exclusive, they build up all the emotionality until exclusivity. Yeah. Then shouldn't it be the responsibility of the women to cultivate relationship desire?
Yes. It really is both parties at the end of the day that are participating in cultivating that desire, I think. And I guess I took that lens because I'm talking about, or I feel as if it's men's perspective on like, oh, the chase, it's done now. Now that I have her, like it's all over. Like, well, now we're just like together and like it's all boring. That perspective is what kills the desire. So
I don't think they think it's like dead and desolate. I don't think any man would get into a relationship if they thought that getting into a relationship means that their life kind of sucks, right? Which is how it sounds to me, that the way you're explaining is like, it's over. I get to like, this is like ball and chain. Yeah. All that shit.
But those terms do exist like for a reason, right?
They're 45.
Still, yeah. And granted, that's like a marriage versus like a relationship.
The old ball and
the old ball and chain.
The old ball and chain.
But I guess maybe the men that I'm like referencing, or maybe the types of men who slide into relationships out of convenience, et cetera, et cetera. And so they're not like too like keen on relationships, but like I like you enough to do this, but relationships aren't exciting to me in any way.
And in that, I don't think that's a deficit in men.
Okay.
Because if men are socialized to be a certain way, for them to exist and operate in the way that they've been taught to be their whole lives, you can't punish them for that.
But we can talk about it and be better from it.
But even in the conversation, I don't think that the sentiment will change, right? Because even in my awareness, right, you can be as aware as you want and like understand that there's another level and another thing you have to pursue once you get into a relationship, once you have the title. Yeah. You will still feel how you feel. And to punish a person for feeling how they feel because of some external circumstance, Like if that's just your personal sentiment, we can talk about that. We can grow. We can progress. But if that's just the general sentiment, because most men are taught a certain way of being, then you're punishing them for the way that they exist. And to me, that's not very fair, right?
Okay.
Which is like, I get your point, right? I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it's not wrong. Like, no, men really step up and understand that the pursuit continues. Like,
Yeah.
the game is on, sir. Like, come on, hunt, whatever.
And even in that, it's more fun because the woman is, I feel like, then participate a lot more once the exclusivity talk is then had. The label is slapped on, and I think that's when,
like, okay, now we're good.
Player 2.
Right. No, exactly. But like in that player 2, I think women really like become player 1.
Yeah.
And the guy becomes player 2 because all he's ever understood and known was how to get the girl.
Yeah.
Even Disney,
Sure.
it doesn't, what happens when you get the girl? Happily ever after.
Yeah.
There's nothing beyond that, right?
For both people, though.
I think women, based on the media that they consume as opposed to the media that men consume, have a much different interpretation of what happens after you get the girl.
Yeah.
Just any romance novel.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, and I do think a certain age you're probably dealing with that with people where you're getting into a relationship with a guy who may not fully understand, like, okay, this is what is required of a relationship. This is how we still continue to maintain desire and whatnot. But I think at a certain age, if someone's been in enough relationships, like it's like, which I kind of hate the idea, but it kind of is true. Whether like a guy is like boyfriend trained, like, oh, I already got him boyfriend trained because the girlfriend before me already trained him well. So now I don't have to train him in the way.
That's a wild ass idea.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It like makes it infantilizes the man, and
Which is what that's like the nature of what it sounds like. Why you resisting being player 1? It's like, oh, I'm not trying to like guide a dude into how to exist in this space. And to that point, men aren't guiding women on how to exist in that space.
No.
So why is it automatically, from your perspective, when I was like, no, now it's your turn to be player 1? It's like, oh, I'm not trying to train a man on how to like be in this space, right? But I don't think that's what it's about. It's about being the driving force of a certain energy that you want to see, right?
Totally.
So whereas men are driving for pre-relationship, pre-exclusivity, women are responding to a certain energy. Now men have to respond to a certain energy, and I think that energy has to come from women in a relationship.
Gotcha.
Because whereas like top level, all the value that they have to add, that men have to add at the beginning, the impressing, the pleasing, the pursuit, all that, right? That's energy that you're responding.
Yeah.
Versus when you flip it, now the intimacy, the discussions, the conversations, the vulnerability, those are things that women are naturally taught to be better at than men. So you're not guiding him through it.
Yeah.
You're just leading the conversation.
I do agree with that. I just didn't like the term of, I used the term boyfriend trained or whatever. But it's mainly like the term that I do not enjoy, but I do agree, or I do understand that.
Understand but don't agree?
I just don't know. Now I'm like, I'm starting to like really think about it live on air. I'm like really starting to like think about it and just like for some reason not enjoying the idea that the man does all like the dating stuff. He's the one that is control of that. And then once it's like a serious committed relationship, the women know all. And like, I don't know, I'm refraining from giving into that, even though that's kind of the binary we have been talking in. And
I don't think it's that extreme, to be honest.
No, I don't think so either. I'm just refraining from well, that's what I'm thinking about it. Like I don't think it's that extreme, but we're talking about it in these like, this is this, and then the woman like the man is player 1 here, and then once you become exclusive, woman becomes player 1. We're talking about it in that extreme, but I don't think it's that. I'm trying to like think about where.
I do think that women tend to have more experience in the intimacy category of life.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why do you resist that so hard? It's so curious to me.
I think I agree. I just don't like that that's the case, I think is what it is.
I'm just saying that it exists.
I know.
I'm not saying that there's...
I know.
I'm literally just... This is how the situation
and it is, I think, my job. No, it's not my job. I just feel that I should state that I don't know that it
doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way. You know, and I think and I think when we're talking about the way that we're talking about it, it's like, okay, but if we're talking about someone who's a little bit older, more experienced in a relationship, is that really happening though? Where like, if a 30-year-old dude is still like needing to be guided on like a relationship and how to be intimate and transition into that from the woman that they're dating, I'm a little resistant to saying that that's okay.
I guess it depends on how... It's the words that we're using that are stressing you out.
Maybe.
Because how I'm thinking about it and then the words that I'm using to describe it aren't necessarily aligning. Okay. Especially not in your brain. Because it makes complete sense to me. Yeah. Like, I'm just saying it, it is what it is. You're just like, I ain't trying to raise no man. Like, no man needs to be guided into it. Like, grow up, bro, is what it's sounding like you're responding. But I'm just like, this is just how it is. And I personally think that women, in the grand scheme of like interpersonal interaction, especially with men, are a driving force in men's vulnerability and intimacy. Yeah. I am not a woman.
Totally. I agree wholeheartedly with that. That I agree with, yes.
But I still find myself being a driving force in my male interactions in terms of vulnerability and intimacy. Yeah. Why? Because I know how to cultivate that energy, and men aren't taught how to do that. Okay. And when you're not taught how to, I guess this is the next point, because I'm saying this and just assuming that you should know. Yeah. When you're not taught how to do something, it doesn't come as naturally to you. Totally. So you don't need to be guided through. It's not like I'm teaching my friends how to feel things. I'm creating the environment that makes it okay for them to express and feel and be more intimate, more vulnerable, more expressive. Yeah. Where it's like they have to be a certain way for society. Yeah. In this relationship, you now have the opportunity, not the permission, the opportunity to express yourself in a different way. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Not that you need to be the mother who coddles a man into learning how to express himself. If you're doing that, you're dating the wrong people. Totally. But he's engaging in that while learning from you. I'm saying this in a very clunky way. Not learning from you. And I guess this is like the real nature of the point I'm trying to make. You are creating the space for him to do and to be. You don't have to create that space for yourself because you've been taught how to exist that way in every space. Yeah. Men have been taught how to exist the way men exist in every space. And in their relationships, once you're exclusive, you need that intimacy. You need that like vulnerability structure. You need all these things to cultivate a healthy relationship. Yeah. Maybe in your relationship, homeboy was already good at it. He didn't need that type of space. But I know, talk to me about this. I was going to say, you know what, now that the word vulnerability triggered me, that is true. In our relationship, I'm more easily vulnerable than he is. Yeah. So that doesn't, okay. I'm starting to understand. So it's like, you're not, again, words, right? Words. This is what we're doing. Yes. Words. It's just, you are you handle the flame. Okay. You hold the flame, create the warmth in the space to create an environment of safety and security for a man's emotion and vulnerability. Totally. You don't create it. You don't guide it. You just make place for it. I like that. Cool. I'm okay with that. Good. All right. Good. No. Good, cool. That's what I meant. A little tangent, but I guess the idea. Yeah, right. It's tangent queens over here. Yes. But the nature of the idea that we're trying to touch on is that it is everyone's responsibility to put energy and cultivate a relationship, right? Yes. No one's arguing that. But what that looks like and what is required between that transition is where people tend to find the most struggle, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
And those struggles can be easily avoided if they are discussed beforehand and anticipated.
Yeah.
Don't be stressed out that things are changing because you want them to change.
Right. And it also makes it less stressful when you talk about what those changes look like for the both of you, right? You both know what to expect then into that next step. The next level of the game. Exclusivity. Boyfriend, girlfriend.
Boyfriend, girlfriend. Terrifying.
Barbie movie.
That's out now, right?
It would already be out now. Yeah. So good. I loved it. I haven't seen it yet. It's my future. So I know I'm going to love it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay, we'll see. Actually, you probably will love that
I'm going to love it. I know.
I probably will really, really hate it.
For sure. Fair enough.
So yeah, that's how you present that question. Lead with vulnerability. Understand what is required. Be prepared to give what's required. Shouldn't be a burden if you like this person.
Right.
If it is a burden, why did you wait till month 4 to figure that out?
Right.
I have a different, clearly you weren't listening to our podcast.
Oh my God.
And you have to be better about that. Don't know what to tell you.
Except be better.
Yeah. I feel like we talked about all the things that we had to talk about.
I was going to say, I think we might have.
Are we done?
It is
Why
almost
is it?
9 o'clock.
Yeah,
Why do I feel like we need to say more?
Right. We have so much left to say.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe that was it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Month 4, having the exclusivity talk. That's what that is. I think it's because we kind of existed in the conceptual nature of it the most than we have other episodes of this series where we've talked about the specific like person, like the specific relationship that's happening. But I think it's fine that we kind of existed in the more conceptual because it's exclusivity talk. There's a lot to go into it.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it feels like we were existing up here. And we're like, we have to go back down to earth. We're like, wait,
But there's no earth to go
there
back
is no,
down
there's
to.
no earth. You kind of just have the talk. What is that? What does that mean? I don't know if you want to bring up the roommate thing.
What roommate thing?
Remember I was saying how, because I feel like definitely by month 4, you're like spending like a lot of time with one another and like sleeping over at one another's spots. Especially I think now that you like become exclusive, I feel like it kind of amps up. Prior to being exclusive with someone, to them being your boyfriend or girlfriend, I think there's a part of that like restraint, right? Is like, okay, we're not going to like see each other like only like once a week or like only twice a week, depending how busy someone's schedule is. Maybe not sleep over at the other person's place, if at all. Some people might have that rule. Don't sleep at the person's place until we're exclusive.
Fair rule. I respect it.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
Which honestly, that brings up another interesting idea for me as you're explaining this. It's like, because honeymoon, and now you have the safety of exploring these things.
Yeah.
Is there a limit to how much you should, like, regardless of the roommates, right? Should you like set that hard limit before you guys start doing all this canoodling or whatever you do when you sleep over?
I think there should be a limit to an extent.
Like, we're not living at each other's houses.
Right. We're not playing house. I think being aware that you are not playing house with your partner, especially at such an early stage, like you don't want to like be like so like quick in it up their ass like immediately, you know. Right. I think like there's like
finally
right. I'm never leaving. Right. So
I guess to that point too, there are still like structures as you lead into like this long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah, totally. I think that like that kind of lasts up until you move in with one another. And I think people shouldn't move in together for a decent amount of time.
Couple years.
Yeah. I think there should be a couple years before moving in with one. Granted, I have seen successful relationships who moved in with one another earlier. Even one of them married.
Whoa.
Well, my sister.
Oh.
Yeah. Nice. They moved in as husband and wife. So.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I know.
Come on now.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Is that what we're talking about?
I know.
Yeah.
It's not at all. I just had to say it.
But yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that I think that limit of still leaving space for each other throughout the weeks and whatnot, consistently within the relationship, even months and months and a year on, should be be there. I think having a healthy amount of independence, right, in your relationship, I think that's like a part of it. If you're at each other's houses all the time, I think you kind of lose a healthy amount of independence. And also you kind of engaging in like house when neither one of you are ready for that, because you're kind of existing as like husband, wife, but not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It puts you in a weird spot that your relationship's just not ready for.
Like weekends.
Exactly. Weekends or just however, people have different schedules.
Sure. Your
Like, yeah.
weekend, whatever works for you.
100%.
But in that, like you were saying.
Yes, but if you have roommates, I think this is a conversation that people have of like, if your roommate has a significant other, how much is too much for them to be over at the apartment or the house that you guys live in? And it probably depends. I know. What's your answer? I
think the younger you are, the less you care.
Yeah.
I've experienced that.
I did not expect that from your mouth. Yeah.
I mean, it's true. Like as a 22, 23-year-old, fuck the roommate, bro. Like I'm with my girl.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The older you get, the more likely you are to room with people you care about, the more likely you are to respect your spaces, and conversations should be had, like you were saying, which is, I guess, why we started the conversation, like how much is your significant other even sleeping over in the first place? Right.
Like I think it would have to be a significant amount for it to be an issue for the roommate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But in that, if I had a roommate that I enjoyed, I would want my significant other to enjoy them as well.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I do have them over, it's not like a weird thing like, hey, bro, I'm bringing her over again. It's like,
right.
Like he lives here. This is his space. I want like him to feel comfortable.
Right.
And I wouldn't bring her over more than like maybe 2 times a week at most if she's staying over.
Yeah.
If she's staying over for like weeks at a time, then I just something that's good for your relationship or respectful to your roommate.
Yeah. Unless there's like some external circumstance, then
like if her house floods for some reason, sewer pipes burst in her apartment. That happened to me.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't have roommates, so I don't have to really think about it.
Right.
But things happen, life happens, and
totally.
Like I said, as long as my roommate enjoys this person, I have no qualms about them being over.
Well, I'm more saying like as like a roommate as well. Like if I was like say I'm single and I have a roommate who's in a relationship, would like there be a certain amount of
like
time.
how if I'm the roommate, how much would I want them to be over?
Yeah, how much like would
it literally depends on how much I enjoy their significant. It literally depends on how much I enjoy their significant other. If I hate her, every time I see her, it'll rub me the wrong way. And why do I have to...
In your own home.
Right, yeah. Like, why am I held hostage in my own house? I pay rent here.
Right.
You guys can go to her place. You guys can get a hotel. You can do anything else. Like, I don't care what you do. Keep her out of here.
I'm dead.
That's just crazy.
That's so funny.
If I love her, like, I don't actually, for me personally, like regardless of relationship structure and what you should or should not be doing, I don't care. Yeah. If she's enjoyable, I don't care.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. If it's like an annoying human being and no one would want them in their home at like a large amount of times.
It also depends on how much I'm a third wheel. Because I could love her, but if all you are doing is making out on my counter while I just want a freaking slice of, I just want a glass of OJ, fam, and you're making out in front of the fridge.
A PDA.
Get a room.
Get a room, dog.
If they have a room, go to your room.
Literally just go to your room.
Public spaces or public spaces. I don't care. It's just us in here.
I was going to say, because I feel like it's more so, it's like, how much are you impeding on my ability to exist in my home comfortably?
Right.
And like,
roommates
if you're
already doing that.
Right.
Let alone another person. Are you kidding me? Jeez.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I don't know. I also like, even like me and my roommates, it's like very, like, it doesn't really matter.
Your roommates are cool though.
But also, we're all like very like reasonable human beings. So it's like no one's going to do anything crazy. And also none of us have date crazy humans.
Isn't that like interesting that rules only exist for people who have no control?
Totally.
Right?
100%.
Like, I'm a reasonable person, you're a reasonable person.
So we don't have rules in place.
No, but like if we exist in a reasonable way, rules aren't necessary.
It's not necessary to say.
I know that I'm not going to have this girl over 4 days a week. Right. I know she's not going to be walking around naked around this apartment, eating shit from our fridge. Like, that's just a thing that I understand. I was raised right. Totally. Right? It's easy.
Totally.
Somebody over here doing that, well, Now we have to have a conversation because you couldn't have common sense. What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
No.
Be reasonable. Act like you got some sense. Act like you were raised correctly. I know a lot of you weren't raised correctly, but that's not my fault.
No.
Be better. You had 20-something years to be better. I don't care if your
Theme
parents
of this
failed you.
episode: be better.
Yeah. But in that, I guess like we don't have anything else to talk about. I thought we had so much more to say, but maybe that like little discussion that we had really like threw me for a loop.
Maybe, but
in that, I feel like we said all the things that we needed to say.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we left any stone unturned.
No, I don't think so. And I think also too the topic of exclusivity was bigger, meatier than we thought. Maybe that's what it was, or just like I don't know.
Like even in that, I feel like we touched on all the things that we needed to touch on.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know how I'm feeling right now. But
Maybe we're just having a lot of fun and we just don't want it to end.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Absolutely. Love the positivity, but I need actual answers. Are you kidding me? That shit is crazy. But that being said, I guess just to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Wrap it up. Hey, wrap it up. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Lead with vulnerability in exclusivity. Don't leave it for the other person. If you feel something and you've been talking to this person for X amount of time, or for 4 months, because that's what we're talking about,
right?
And everything's going well, the way that we elaborated on it, take that step, and you be the one to make that decision because you're the one feeling it. Man or woman, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If you're a woman, you will most likely be having this conversation first because men are not oblivious, but they're just like consistent. They don't have to think about things that they don't have to think about.
Or not even just that. Men often want to take the cue from the woman when it comes to that as well. Like, you know.
That's such a much better reason than
yeah, like they're just completely aloof. No, hopefully they feel the same way. They're not completely aloof to what's going on, actually.
Why do I hate men so much?
Right, what's going on?
That was crazy.
But maybe more so of just the hesitancy to like take the cue from the woman of like, does she want me to be this person for her? So I think maybe that's why it can maybe oftentimes be the woman. In my experience, it has. Maybe in other people's, it hasn't. It's been the guy. Who knows? It can go either way.
Let us know in the comments of the videos that we post on our new social media. You can follow us everywhere.
Yes, because we now have a YouTube too.
We have a YouTube. We have a IG, an Instagram, a TikTok.
Well, I think we have a YouTube far before this release of this episode.
Stop trying to make this temporal, man. I can't.
I'm breaking the fourth wall. Everyone, we're recording this episode way earlier than it's being released.
Oh my God.
And
so
Jem can't keep track of the calendar.
My sense of time is already fucked up.
Yeah.
And you try to it just gives me another layer of things I need to think about.
It's funny because it's so easy for me. I'm like, no, like, oh yeah, we're recording this. Like we already have, like, I'm like, oh, Barbie movie already released. Like,
I'm glad that your brain works this way.
Yeah. Sorry that yours doesn't.
Don't be sorry. Just help me out a little bit if you actually care.
That's me helping you out, being like, okay, yeah, but it's like we've had the YouTube out.
And then it just disrupts my entire flow.
I'm so sorry.
And are you really being helpful, or you just want to flex the fact that you can keep track of all this time shit?
Anyways, any other conclusions that we need to
let us know in the comments on our social media at we.theintellectuals on anything. We'll probably make a Twitter too. Yeah. Why not?
Sure. You got that. I'm not on Twitter literally at all.
Are you sure you want me to be on that?
Actually, maybe not. Jem was going to start saying some wild stuff. Everyone go check out Jem's Twitter and tell me why, or what am I trying to say?
What are you trying to say?
Maybe I shouldn't give you the Twitter.
I love being on Twitter. That's all I have to say about that. But
a little too much.
Like I always say, that's neither here nor there. Second point. We said lead with vulnerability. We said lead with vulnerability.
Yes.
Lead with vulnerability. Why is that word so hard?
Oh my God.
Lead with vulnerability.
Yes.
You know, as much as we've been speaking, my speech impediment issues have not been showing up. But today's the first day that I realized, like, oh yeah, I kind of suck at speaking sometimes.
It happens.
Yeah. Lead with vulnerability and don't resist relationship changes.
Yeah.
Right? Expect things to change when you want exclusivity. It's a very important change.
Yeah.
The titles mean something.
Yeah.
They should mean something. And
You should talk about what that means as well.
Talk about what it means, but also expect it to change because you want it to change when
Right.
you ask for exclusivity. And then the last point, this was your point actually, it's mutual.
Yeah.
This is a thing that you cultivate together.
Yeah.
This is a new aspect of your relationship that you explore with each other. And it can be very fun and very beautiful
Yeah.
and very taxing and very effort filled,
Yeah.
but ultimately worth it. So like
100%.
Renee stood on her soapbox and said, don't let the fear of commitment stop you from experiencing the beauty of romance. Right?
You say it so much better than I did. I'm just like not as eloquent as you. Go on.
You just gave me all the tools
Yeah.
to say what you needed to say. You said it. This is just me summarizing. That was all you, girl. And why is the shit not recorded? It's fine. I might not have, but that might have been on me. I'm not gonna lie. You've been recording for a long time.
Yeah.
The sunlight kind of fucked us up. The sun sets later than
Yeah.
what I was expecting. So usually like when it's set, it's like 8 o'clock, but now it's like so late. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let us know what you thought about the question or the concept. Like, is splitting bills a viable way to test how close you are with a person? Mm-hmm. I think so. Renee has concerns.
I have concerns. I think it's not so simple. I think there's context to be had, and that's all I will say. And I think people would agree with me. So
no, yeah, that's why I agree with you.
Yeah. I know. What am I saying? I'm like, as if no one's gonna agree with me. I'm like so upset about it.
Hey, yeah, but let us know what you thought of the episode, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yep.
And once again, I'm Jem,
and I'm Renee,
and we're the intellectuals signing off. Until next time.
Bye.